Hey, Spuddies, Potato Big Whiskey here, and welcome to the first look at Tecumseh. I think I said that right. So let's take a little peek at the newest civilization in Civilization 7. This is the Tecumseh and the Shawnee civilization.
Tecumseh was a Shawnee chief who spread a message of unity and resistance among the indigenous peoples of the Americas. He was a major anti-colonial leader during the United States' early westward expansion.
Okay, so we can see that we have a grassland and plains start bias, and now we also know that in Civilization 7, they've actually changed the way that start biases work. Previously, they would generate the map and then try to place you somewhere that made sense for your start bias. Now they place you and then build a little chunk of the map around you and then knit the map together. So the probability that you're going to get grasslands and plains is very, very high. And I'm interested to see if they have any special bonuses that go along with that grasslands and plains. Because I tend to find rivers are very, very strong in Civilization games. So I'm wondering if that's going to hold true in the latest iteration.
Westward expansion. A hero to many, Tecumseh favors diplomacy with leaders who support, rather than suppress, independent powers.
That seems quite interesting. So his leader agenda is suzerain of the world. He likes leaders who leave independent powers independent. So he doesn't annex them, they don't conquer them, and they don't like leaders who disperse independent powers. I like that as a leader agenda. I think many AIs in the history of civilization tend to kind of aggressively stamp down on independent powers. So I'm kind of interested in seeing a leader who, when led by the AI, will be less likely and more to stomp them down and more likely to advocate for them. So I'm curious to see how that will play out during a game.
Suppress independent powers. Friendly relations with those independents give some helpful bonuses towards settlement yields. And settlement yields. Give some help.
So the leader bonus for Tecumseh is +1 food and production per age in settlements for every city-state you're suzerain of. Now that's because Tecumseh is different from the Shawnee civilization, right? That those are two separate things. They come together, but they don't have to, because you can put any leader with any civ. So this leader bonus is going to travel throughout the game with you, right? So in the first age, you're going to get 1 food and production. You're going to get 2 food and 2 production in the second age. And in the third age, you're going to get 3 food and 3 production, which is in settlements. Now, I'm curious as to what settlements means. Is settlements the catch-all term for all cities in Civilization 7? Like, what is the settlements term? What does that term mean? Because it's not per age in cities, it's settlements. Does that mean it only applies to, like, the smaller towns? Is settlements the catch-all term? So very, very curious to see how that works out, because that might be +3 food and +3 gold in your non-sort of centralized cities.
Helpful bonuses towards settlement yields. And incredible military power, should the need arise.
Oh, wow. So that's actually a really big deal as well. +1 combat strength for all units for every city-state you're suzerain of. This is actually going to be one of my civs that I play, because I really like playing around with city-states. From what I've seen in Civilization 7, city-states are really interesting. They're really fun. They bring a lot of cool gameplay aspects. And so I'm really glad that Tecumseh is going to be super interesting and super fun with that sort of aligned towards city-state gameplay. So I'm super on board for that. Also, I wanted to say real quick, the leader model for Tecumseh is amazing. I love everything about the design. He looks incredible. I'm definitely on the record complaining about how the leaders look in Civilization 7, but this guy looks fantastic. Like, look at that side profile. Extremely amazing artistic design, beautifully crafted in-game model. And also, it seems like it has really interesting gameplay effects. So, super interested in this leader bonus. +1 combat strength. From what we know in Civilization 6, and remember, Civilization 7 is built on Civilization 6, just like Beyond Earth was built off of Civ 5. Civ 5 was built off of Civ 4, although I think Civ 5, they changed the way the engine worked because they switched to hexes. regardless, we know that +1 combat strength in Civilization 6 is +1 combat strength is approximately a 3% increase in the unit's relative power to what it used to have. So if you have +10 combat strength, your unit is 30% stronger offensively and defensively, which multiplies together to actually be something like 40% stronger, right? So +1 combat strength, don't sleep on that.
Tecumseh's historical Shawnee stand out among the new civilizations in Civ 7.
So they're mostly diplomatic and economically aligned, which honestly feels like the kind of Civ that I like to play. I like to play not exactly peaceful, but chill. I like to play chill civilizations. I don't want to conquer city-states. I don't want to conquer independent peoples. I don't want to kill. I don't want to start wars. I want to build an interesting civilization and defend that civilization. Also, look at the graphics of their buildings. Those are gorgeous buildings. Those models are amazing.
The Shawnee people built flourishing, adaptable societies around rivers, making them an excellent exploration age pairing. So keep an eye out for rivers when establishing your next settlement.
Okay, so that looks like a very interesting ability for the Shawnee. Nepekafaki. I don't know how to say that, but settlements adjacent, settlement cities. So this is if a settlement is a city adjacent to a navigable river, you get +2 food on river terrain, but cities that aren't built to adjacent to a navigable river receive -10% food. So navigable rivers for the Shawnee are huge. You're going to be wanting to fight over them. So like, I could see this Civ actually being a natural follow-on to Egypt from a gameplay perspective, right? If you could figure out a way to unlock, if you pick Tecumseh and you play Egypt Era 1, that means you could switch to the Shawnee, and that means your navigable river bias is going to kick in and get a lot of benefits and stuff. So very, very cool. And similarly, in the reverse, if you play not Cleopatra, Nefertiti, I forget what the leader in Civ 7 is. Oh my god, why can't I remember her name? I played Ara History Untold too recently, and it's Nefertiti in that game, and that's just all my brain can think of. But if you play her, and then you unlock the Shawnee, you could do some really interesting things with navigable river stuff.
Exploration age pairing. So keep an eye out for rivers when establishing your next settlement. Or choose a different path all your own. But whatever you build, remember to build something you believe in.
I want to say that this is maybe a wonder associated with the Shawnee. It looks like it could be some kind of burial mound or some religious temple. It looks like something of religious and cultural significance that I'm just not simply aware of. But this looks like their civilization wonder. I believe each Civ in Civilization 7 has a wonder that is associated with their culture. And this looks like it could be the Shawnee wonder. Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate how beautiful the graphics are in the background there? Can we get like a slightly better view on that? Let me have a little peek here. Yeah, I mean, look at that water tower. This is a mine. We've got a beautiful, what looks like some sort of farmland. Look, that's a big chicken. God damn. That's a big ass chicken. We've got some sort of open pit mine quarry over there. We've got a beautiful river. Gorgeous. This game looks gorgeous. Loving it.
Remember to build something you believe in.
I don't know if I love the build something you believe in. It's a good phrase though. I like it. I love, I don't know why, can't explain it. But I really, really love Native American music. I used to listen to I think it's called A Tribe Called Red, and there was another band. I used to like look up powwows on YouTube and listen to it. I really, really love music that is vocal and percussion based. It's like my favorite kind of music, and a lot of Native American music that I've heard is very heavily vocal and percussion based. And I think there's something just raw and powerful about the human voice sort of separated out into, I don't know, its own music. It's why I love choirs. I love the Dune movie had awesome music because it was all very vocally based. So big fan of the music that they've implemented for the Shawnee. All right. So that's going to be the first look at Tecumseh and the Shawnee. I gotta say, they look really powerful. They look really interesting. All of their abilities look super, super swell. We do also have the civilization website here. So the Shawnee are an exploration age civilization. There's an asterisk here. The Shawnee civilization is part of the Tecumseh and Shawnee Pack DLC, included in the Deluxe and Founders editions. It's not included in the Standard edition, but it's available as a bonus offer for pre-orders of the Standard edition. So if you pre-order the Standard edition, you get this, and you can also buy it, purchase it separately. All right, so the Algonquian speaking people originally from what is now Eastern United States, Shawnee fought hard to keep the land of traditions, fiercest battles with the United States as the new nation pushed westward. Seeking to build a coalition of indigenous people to form a united front, the Shawnee established a settlement at Prophetstown, but the U.S. Army loomed on the horizon. Okay, I like that they have a unique ability that is both good and bad, in the sense that it very much is reminiscent of the Mayans. I like that it's like, hey, you get a lot of benefits for settling next to navigable rivers, but if you don't settle next to navigable rivers, you get a small penalty. So they're diplomatic and economic in direction. Ooh, they have unique civic trees. Okay, so unlocks the Mawaskawa Scotte unique improvement and unlocks the bread dance tradition. It seems to be based on the wiki that it provides food and increases gold for each adjacent resource, must be placed on a vegetated tile, not adjacent to another one. Okay, interesting. I wonder if those are assumptions that the people have made. And then we've got tradition, bread dance, increases culture to all farming towns and increased food for all fishing towns. Very cool. I like that. That seems like it's going to be fun to play around with. Tier 2 increases your settlement limit, and the Scotte receives extra culture per city state you're suzerain of. Oh, that's really cool. I like that. So you're going to want to play definitely sort of into independent powers and city states. The Miyaska Latoweki Tier 1 adds gold for each trade route for while you have a set number of endeavors active. I wonder what endeavors are. That's probably something we're going to learn when we explore the civilization stream about Tecumseh. Unlocks Cacafe Pafko Taweta tradition. Adds culture and gold every time an environmental event has provided fertility this age. Improvements, buildings, and urban districts do not get pillaged by storms. Okay, that actually seems like a really good tradition, depending on how often those things can happen. Additional resource cap in your capital per allied city-state. Now, that is strong. Being able to feed a lot of resources into a single city is really powerful. So it seems like these guys scale really hard with city-states, which I'm a big fan of. I like that. Telewatiki, you can support leaders' wars multiple times instead of once. Interesting. I don't know how that mechanic works, so I'll be kind of curious. Seems like if someone else is in a war, this could be an interesting ability in multiplayer if there's a way to like help another player who's weaker than the player you're like that's attacking them, but you don't want to get directly involved. But maybe if you can like side channel support. Increased influence efficiency to the befriend independent action. So that probably makes it either cheaper or you get more out of it. I'm interested in what influence efficiency means. Kispoko Nina unique infantry unit increases combat strength per positive war support. Ooh, interesting. And then we have Malaki Kintake. You get extra food on farms and camps, and you get the Serpent Mound Wonder. Ah, that's what it is. It's a Serpent Mound. That's what that wonder was. Your cities receive additional production on tundra, desert, and plains tile. Now, that's really interesting. I love the unique civic trees for civilizations. Big fan of the unique civic trees. They also have the unique infrastructure. Here we go. This is the adds food, increase gold for each adjacent resource. We've also got the unique civilian unit, the Hoxi Pikileni, which is a unique missionary unit. It has increased movement, and rivers do not end your movement. So this is their unique civilian unit. So missionaries are confirmed in Era 2. So their missionary is faster and ignores the movement ending effects of rivers. That's quite interesting. It gives them a little bit of mobility. So they have a missionary that can get around easier. Their unique military unit has increased combat strength for every Empire resource. Ooh, there are some really interesting Empire resources. I think gold was one that made like unit maintenance cheaper. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. Let's see. Serpent Mound. Add science and increased science and production to all unique improvements. Ooh, when you've got the Mawaska Scote and you're getting science and production from all those, you're going to want that Serpent Mound, dude. So their bias is rivers, grassland, plains, and coast. Yeah, I'm super excited for the Shawnee to try them out in the exploration age. My opinion is this looks like a really interesting civilization. It looks like it had a lot of really interesting abilities. The leader looks really cool. I gotta say my hype level has increased based on this civilization. I am very interested in playing these guys. I love the design of their abilities. I love the art design of their civilization, both graphically, musically, stylistically. Everything about it is exciting to me. So hopefully we'll get a chance to play them soon. We're going to react to the Civilization livestream about Tecumseh and the Shawnee that actually includes Shawnee special guests.
My name is Pete Murray. I'm going to be your host today.
Listen along,
we have a very exciting live stream to share with you today. We have some special guests. We're going to talk about the Shawnee and how they are in Civilization 7. We've got some new gameplay to share with you. And I am joined today by Civilization 7's lead historian, Andrew Johnson. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Pete.
It's exciting.
We love Andrew in this house.
Very special guests visiting
us. We love
Pete too. From Miami, Oklahoma. We have Carl Meyer from the Shawnee Language Center, a technical specialist with them, and Chief of the Shawnee, Chief Ben Barnes. Thank you both so much for coming out.
Chief Ben Barnes, cool. And Carl Meyer, got it.
See, I told you. How are you guys today?
Good. Amazing. Yeah. Very excited.
And joining us is Civilization 7's creative director, Ed Beach. He's going to be walking
Let Ed cook, baby.
Ed, how are you?
I'm great.
Excellent. Well, I think the best way that we could kick off the stream today is by showing you guys the first look for Tecumseh. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that.
Basically, he's really good with city-states. The Shawnee are really good with rivers. They also have a bunch of cultural stuff. They're really good with unique improvements with the Serpent Mound. Forget what it was called, but that's their unique wonder that's at the end of this video. Very, very cool civilization. Very excited.
Very, very fun look at Tecumseh. But Chief Barnes, tell us who are the Shawnee and how are you as a people?
Pete, thank you. First, I'm very excited that you've invited us to be in your studio today. Working with you guys these last few years has been just really exciting. And for Carl, the rest of the language team, we've been really excited about this. So for those that don't know who the Shawnee are, our tribe, we have citizens across 50 states. We're a government, and so we're one of 3 Shawnee governments. And so historically, our people occupied about more than 20 eastern states. One of the first Indian agents here in the United States, he described the Shawnee as the greatest travelers of America. So for a lot of folks in the eastern half of the United States, the Tecumseh and the Shawnee are fairly well known. And across North America, I think Tecumseh is even more so well known because of his involvement in the War of 1812. Our Canadian brothers and sisters know more about him than we do. They don't really teach the War of 1812 very much in U.S. schools. But I think for indigenous peoples all over the world, Tecumseh is one of those role models that embodies unity and coming together. And so it's reflected in the values that your team's put together for his leadership abilities. And we're really excited.
That's really cool. I like that they have included at least one of the Shawnee chiefs. It does raise an interesting question in my brain of like, this is unique to the history and cultural like zeitgeist of America, right? Like nobody is, and it has to do with the unique cultural and political and social situation to do with America as a political institution, layered on with the tribes and the Native American governments and indigenous peoples, and like the unique history that they have together, and the position of Firaxis in America, Baltimore particularly, which is East Coast America. It's near enough to where I imagine the Shawnee occupied. I don't know enough about all that, right? Whereas like I wonder, and like what I'm getting at here is like it's interesting. That's interesting because there isn't like a tribal chief for Irish culture, right? To consult with. There isn't like a Scottish tribal chief to consult with. And in a way, those cultures are not in the socio-political positions that require a more delicate hand, because I guess the history of oppression for the Shawnee is like more recent. And that's just an interesting series of thoughts to go down. Listen, if you guys need someone to be the cultural contact on Ireland, I'll put together a team. I'll do it.
But what I think I'd like to ask you and your team, particularly Andrew, is why did you guys choose Tecumseh and the Shawnee for this particular title?
Yeah, when we were first trying to figure out who we might include in Civ 7, we got a list of 50 to 100 different historical figures and tried to really piece out where was a good angle, where was a good story that could be told with each one of these figures, and looking at different regions of the world. In North America, Tecumseh was one of the names that immediately comes to mind when you think about indigenous North American leaders. And then the story, too, seemed to fit really well within our exploration age, in that sense of a new form of government, a new configuration, a new coming together of disparate peoples that isn't the same thing as colonial or imperial expansion, but is rather a more diplomatic partnership. And as well, I found the story of Tenskwatawa also compelling too, in that this was a religious movement as well as a political movement. There's two sides of the same coin. So I thought that was really compelling, and I think
religion and politics is often intertwined in movements, at least in history. You've got the classic examples of the Reformation, right? It was a religious and a political thing, and that gives us conflicts, for generations all around the world. The conflict, to still existing to some respect today, right? Rangers and Celtic. Those are drawn on like party lines that are also religious lines. They're religious political lines, and you've got Northern Ireland, and so it's interesting that they mention that. I don't know. I just find that interesting that religion and politics, the two things you're not allowed to talk about on the internet in polite company, have always been kind of intertwined in history.
We all thought that was a really compelling story. It was a matter of then, reaching out and trying to get partnership and collaboration with the owners of the culture.
And
I think part of this partnership is also to do with how the Cree tribe reacted to being included in Civilization 6. If I remember, it was a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far away. It was a good while ago, but they tried to implement the Cree respectfully into Civilization 6, and I think someone from the Cree tribe issued a reprimand. They were like, hey, we weren't consulted about this. We don't agree with the representation. And I think this is something unique to the the political situation in America, that these people are here to defend themselves, because a lot of colonized people aren't.
Partnership and collaboration with the owners of the culture.
And I think one of the exciting parts is with that outreach, we've got 4 of the people who are on that first call here. So, how was that initial call, the outreach with Chief Barnes and Carl?
Right, so we got on the call, and I'm sweating bullets because I don't really know how this is going to pan out. I don't know whether or not we're going to get an earful of your game is Eurocentric or something like this. But the first thing that Chief said to me was, okay, so I guess this isn't about XCOM, is it? And that's when I knew that, hey, no, we're having a conversation with gamers, with
I will say, holy shit, dude. How sick would it be to have like a comic book style XCOM where every country has its own class? Like, you've got the Irish soldier who's like really good at inspiring other troops with poetry, or is like good at like blowing stuff up. And then you've got like, I don't know, like the Shawnee guy who's like good at getting countries on your side. Now that's an XCOM I would play. XCOM World War. Fuck yeah.
With people who understand what Civ is, what it's going for, and what it could be too. And that's really the ideal point, is where could we take this?
Also, I just want to say poetry and blowing stuff up is a national pastime in Ireland.
We're having a conversation with gamers, with people who understand what Civ is, what it's going for, and what it could be too. And that's really the ideal point, is where could we take this? Mm-hmm. And for me, it was a sudden sharing of a vision in that way. And I was so relieved after that first sentence. I was so excited and relieved, and it's been great thus far.
So, Chief, what has this relationship meant to you and to the Shawnee?
Well, I remember getting the email, and I can remember immediately contacted Carl, and I said, hey, these folks want to talk to us. And he and I are both gamers. I'm a gamer from so far back that my first gaming experience was I was going to be eaten by a grue.
Listen, we stand the Shawnee Chief, okay? He's a true gamer.
So so for us, when we saw this, we knew that this was an opportunity for representation, that it's not often that video game publishers and companies, designers, come to a tribal nation and want to be collaborative partners. And we knew that we could do this right if we had meaningful dialogue. And we had plenty of time. We had 3.5, maybe almost 4 years, maybe yeah, where we worked together. And so we're really excited because representation in these games are important. Seeing ourselves reflected, not just in the way that the actors look, but it's also having the language and the culture and seeing that reflected in the game. And it's exciting. I know a lot of our citizens are really, really excited for this game to come out.
I think it is super cool. I think that is something a lot of people kind of discard about Civilization, and also just representation in video games in general. It's like kind of a meme, like I don't want to play a girl, blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, like having representation in video games is awesome. I don't remember what, it was one of the BioShocks, is like the guy, I think his name is Andrew, who's like talking to you over the thing. And there's just something really cool about hearing an Irish accent in a video game. Because that's a voice I hear all the time, right? I hear people who talk like that, with a slight Dublin accent, talking around. And it's interesting because a lot of media is so either Americanized or Britishized, particularly English-speaking media, right? And so there's something really cool about having representation. It's just I like it. I think it's cool, man. I think it's cool. That's all it is. And I don't really understand the argument against it. I think it can be cringe if it's like done badly, for sure. But I think if it's done well, it's really cool. To just have representation of different peoples, different cultures. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like, just having someone who speaks Irish, or imagine you have a culture or a language that's on the brink of existence, right? And somebody approaches you as like, hey, we want to like use your language, knowledge and skills in a piece of media artwork about that like is tangential or associated with it because we think we think your stuff is really cool. And then like that feels good. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, dude, I think Spanish is really cool. Can we we need like a Spanish speaker for this video game because we just think Spanish is cool. And we want Spanish people to be represented, or we want Shawnee people to be represented, or whatever. I just think that's cool, man. I think people get kind of freaky about that. It's like, oh, DEI woke is rooting media, and it's like, bro, bad media has existed forever. We only remember the bangers, okay? It's just now people are a little bit more sensitive about how they represent people. I mean, what was that movie where Mickey Rourke plays a Chinese dude? Like, oh my God, dude. If you think back to some of the Ace Ventura with the trans people, oh my God, dude. Like, some of these movies that were like cultural milestones, or not like cultural touchstones, whatever the word is. And you look back and you're like, Jesus, oh my God, I can't believe that. I can't believe someone shot that. You know what I mean? And like, they did it unironically. They thought that this was funny, but it's extremely weird. So yeah, I do think representation is a good thing. I do think representation is, I just think it's cool. It's just, the problem is that a certain percentage of media is always going to suck. And the problem is that people attribute the media being bad to it being bad because people are trying to represent people in it, which is wrong. Because sometimes stuff is just bad.
You got know, and seeing that reflected in the game, and it's exciting. I know a lot of our citizens are really, really excited for this game to come out.
When you guys came out and met with us, I had more elderly people that have never played a video game in their life come up and say they're going to play this video game because of the partnership and Tecumseh being in it. And,
you know what? If we're getting people to play the game, that's awesome.
It knows no ends. I got to say, when Civ 5 came out, you guys were teasing one of the next Civs to come out, and you were like, oh, it's going to be a Native American Civ. Oh, it's going to start with an S. And I was on the edge of my seat just waiting. Are the Shawnee going to be in this? Are the Shawnee going to be in this? And then it came out, it was the Shoshone. And if you would have told me then that I would be working with your guys' team on the Shawnee aspect in 7, I would have never believed you. And it's once in a lifetime.
Well, we've been very grateful for the partnership with you guys.
That is really awesome. And I'm really glad that Civilization is able to do this kind of partnerships with the people who have the cultural knowledge and stuff like that. Otherwise, you get weird stuff like, you know, Ireland, unique improvement, the pub. You know what I mean?
We're really grateful for the opportunity to work with you, and this has been a lot of fun. And so what's exciting about this stream today is we get to share the work that you all have put together in creating this this relationship for this game. So this is really cool. Chief Barnes, I know the Shawnee language is especially important for you. So when we see Tecumseh and we hear him speaking Shawnee, I know that goes right to the heart of things that are important to you as the chief.
Pete, it's not just the language. Also, we had a community involvement. So there's even our music and songs are incorporated into it. And
That's awesome.
from the very get-go, we involved our community in this project. We couldn't have done it without that community. We had support from Eastern Shawnee citizens, as well as the former governor, the former governor of the absentee Shawnee tribe was our language consultant. Neowant, George Blanchard. We couldn't have done it without you, George. And the entire language team, Joel, Anastasia. I'm going to miss some people, I'm sure.
Bree
Alexander.
Our THIPO department was actually hugely helpful. Our historic preservation department, they actually helped us come up with all the names for the rivers and the towns and whatnot.
They did a lot of the research, also the archaeological research
Yes.
on providing some of the structure design
Yes.
and how Fort Ancient villages looked in that era. And so a lot
That is
of
really
background,
awesome.
and
I
think
love
we're
the
gonna see some of
detail that they're going
today.
into.
I'm really excited to share this with gamers back home and us and around the globe.
So we have a short video clip of actually some of the music being recorded as well too. So I will ask our team if they could.
Dude,
put that
I
up
love
for us.
Native American music. I gotta say, okay, I think there's something about cultural music. I swear to God, if you had just given those guys a Bowron and a pint of Guinness and like a tin whistle, I see those exact same dudes just looking slightly more Irish down in like the Irish bars playing Irish music. It's the same dude. It's just like a average older dude who grew up doing music. Like, I swear to, like, there's like a template of a music guy, and like everyone is thinking it's like, oh, musician, it's like this young hot guy with long hair, and it's like they probably wear that when they were younger, but most musicians, it's like some middle-aged older dude or girl who just chills and makes music. And it's like, I swear, that template of person, once I saw it, I can no longer unsee it, and it makes me feel this cultural affinity with the Shawnee that like I could see this guy down in my local pub with a tin whistle, and he would not look out of place.
So who are our musicians?
So on the left, that was Joel Barnes, my little brother. My big brother, my first cousin, Brett Barnes, is in the middle. And then on the right is our nephew, Trenton Stand. But Brett is an Eastern Shawnee citizen. Trenton is a Shawnee and Quapaw citizen. And Joel, of course, he's a Shawnee citizen.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things I've enjoyed the most is as we've been together and as we've been listening to the game, you sing along with the soundtrack every time it comes up.
Man, I can't help it. It's just so it's gorgeous.
It's
the way
so
the way it's been mixed. It's absolutely wonderful to hear.
Well, I think that's part of what's fun about doing a Civilization game is being able to put elements like the music and the language into that. So, Andrew, you've had a lot of experience with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in my other lives, I've been an educator, and what I've really want people to get out of a game or out of any sort of media experience, though, is to being able to think about things in different ways, and hearing another language really is a glimpse into another world, into another way of poetry, another way of thinking, another way of expressing yourself.
He's super right.
There's nothing better than
super
learning a new language. Allowing your brain to move between worlds. I think that's what I love as an anthropologist myself, and it's what
he's super right. Like once I started learning German, I felt like it unlocked a new dimension of understanding, because how do I even explain this? It's like words and concepts from German leaked into my English brain, and I want to imagine that Imagine the language center of my brain is like a collection of neurons, right? And some of the connections don't connect, right? But by adding the German neurons, now I have a better encapsulation of the entire world. There's words, there's phrases, there's ways of thinking that were unlocked to me by learning a second language. And I think that is like the Tower of Babel. You know what I mean? Like learning. Also, by the way, there's a really cool game called Chants of Sennaar. Super recommended. Chants, Chants of O-F, Sennaar, Sennar. It's all about language and interpretation. Super, super fun game. But yeah, I think learning a new language and learning a new culture does actually kind of unlock a sort of extra sector of understanding, and it allows you to I don't know, it just changes your brain, man, in a way that I can't explain fully. It's something you got to experience.
But allowing your brain to move between worlds. I think that's what I love as an anthropologist myself, and it's what I love to see taste of here in Civilization too.
One of my favorite parts of the story is that the voice actor who voices Tecumseh is a member of the Shawnee Nation. And Carl, tell the story about Dylan Dean interviewing for or auditioning for the role of Tecumseh.
So Dylan Dean, one of our citizens, we kept the secrecy of this project pretty close to the chest, and so we never told Dylan who we were asking him to audition for. And so he went and did his audition, and then he didn't know he was auditioning for Tecumseh until he got the call that said he got the part. And I guess he just ran around the house celebrating that he was both in the game and Tecumseh. So that was pretty amazing.
So a couple weeks
That
ago,
must have been a cool
Andrew
moment for him.
Fredrickson, the lead producer on Civ 7, brought a build of the game out, and we actually have a clip of Dylan sitting down to play as Tecumseh. Let's roll that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh yeah.
Have the voice actor playing Tecumseh, getting to play Tecumseh in the game, which was a really, really cool moment for us.
That's really, really
And
cool.
He had a blast. He sat down for about 15, 20 minutes and played the game and really had a blast. So.
Yeah. Well, so we should jump in and play a little bit of the game too. This will give us a chance to show off some of the details of what we're going to talk about as well too. So
This is the big stuff. This is the gameplay stuff. Let's get into the gameplay, baby.
Ed, I'm going to turn it over to you. So we have some new Exploration Age gameplay to share. But we're going to have more Exploration Age gameplay in a future live stream as well too. So we've got plenty more details to come on that.
Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how an age starts, specifically an age after the very first stage in the game.
Okay, this is big. This is the kind of information we've all been waiting for. This is how does a new age begin? How does an age start? What are the important pieces of information in an age?
Where we go through the process that we call an advanced start. And Civilization games have had advanced starts before, but we have a more elaborate system than we normally do to present you into an advanced start and to get your civilization up and going.
Advanced Start was a really cool idea. I think Civ 4 was the last Advanced Start game that had it. Well, I mean, all Civs have had a kind of Advanced Start, but Civ 4 had an actual, like, you would, like, modify the map and place things and place cities and stuff. And it was really, really interesting. So I'm super curious to see how they play through the Advanced Start stuff.
So we're going to look at that in just a second. But before we do, let's quickly review some of the abilities that Tecumseh and the Shawnee bring to a player. There's some tricky words to pronounce here, so I'm going to have Carl help me with the leader ability.
Absolutely. We've got Nichaki Lakoulakwe.
Which
Nichaki
is
Alakulawake.
reflective of Tecumseh's ability to unite tribes and peoples
Nukakia Kululakwe. I think I got that right.
together,
It actually means something of all of our relations.
which is entirely appropriate. And you can see that combat strength is going to build with the more city-state partners that Tecumseh has been able to recruit to his banner. And it's also going to increase the productivity in terms of food and production of the settlements. Now, the other thing we want to focus on is the Shawnee's unique.
I will say something. I have feedback about Civilization 7's this. I don't like the hammer. I really liked the color coding of green is food, orange is production, and now production is like weird hammer thing. I miss orange being production.
Unique ability. Again, I'll let Carl pronounce that for us.
We've got Nepaki Thaki, we've got Kispako Nenato, and we've got
Kispako Nenato.
Kilini.
Hotep
Okay, and the
Kilini.
Nepaki Thaki is their ability to settle near rivers and be very productive in those types of situations. Now, the Shawnee homeland that we represent in the game in terms of where we've chosen their capital, you'll see in a minute, it is Chillicothe, which is a town in Ohio. And both Jason, who's going to be on the stream later, and I were actually born in Ohio, so we have a little bit of Ohio heritage on the
awesome.
development team. But it
pretty
is
cool.
the Ohio River Valley that was particularly important to the Shawnee, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the Chillicothe was historically our capital city, basically.
So what we do to reflect that in the game through this unique ability is whenever they settle next to a navigable river, and the Ohio was a very wide
I gotta say, the way he's holding the axe, rather than like holding the axe, like 'cause if you hold the axe this way with the head going that way, like you're ready to hit with it. I really like the idea that he's holding the axe at rest. He's leaning it against his wrist. That's a much more comfortable, relaxed way to hold it. It's like, I'm not in a fight, but I'm ready. I love that. That's actually such a cool little detail.
navigable river, at least all the way up to Pittsburgh and beyond. That is a river that you want to establish your cities along.
Like, that's the same way you would hold a book against your forearm, you know? Like, I like the idea that he's holding this axe the way you would hold a book or a cane or something.
If you can also get some of your towns nearby, navigable rivers, that's even a bonus. But you want to make sure that your cities are established there, because otherwise you're going to take the penalty to food output that we list here. So let's go ahead and look at the map. And the way an advanced start works is you are given a swath of the Civ map. You don't know what the rest of the map looks like. This is just your homeland. Everything else is covered in our fog of war. And you have to decide, given this piece of terrain that I've inherited, what's the best way for me to configure my initial civilization.
This is a very cool idea where it's like, hey, here's a chunk of the map that you have explored. And it's like, make some decisions about how to make use of that land. I think that's a really cool idea.
Now we have this button here called Create Advanced Start. And when you click on that, you will see that you have a number of abilities that you can select from. And we have 7 points that we're going to be able to spend on those abilities. This is the wildcard points.
Ooh, so these are your wildcard points that can be used for anything. But if you had played a game before this, maybe you would have earned different points in different categories corresponding with the legacy paths. That's a really cool idea. Really, really excited about this. I want to see how this works. I am kind of in the way here. This one says ranged army, army consisting of 2 ranged unit, which is really interesting. That is awesome.
When you're playing through an age transition and you played a previous age, you might have been very good at the economic side of the game or the military side of the game. So then you will accumulate points in some special area. But in these advanced starts, you're jumping into the game right during the exploration age. And so the points you gain are wild card ones that you can spend in any area to set yourself up.
Absolutely. When I played the game a little bit, this advanced start was absolutely a blast to play through. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I treat it very differently depending upon what type of game I'm playing. If I'm playing a single player game, I'm like, well, I'm pretty confident that nobody's going to give me a lot of trouble militarily, so I'll set up a really strong, I'll spend all my points on economic things.
Yep.
But when our design team is playing in-house and we're playing multiplayer, I have some other considerations to think about. And so some of these, Carl's in those games sometimes. And not this Carl, but our Carl Berrien. And so some of these red legacies that I can choose that give me military power might be a lot more appealing to me in those particular situations. You'll also notice that some of them have a 2 symbol next to them. So if I want to place a city, that's going to take
So
2 of
two
my
towns
7
or a city. That's
advanced
cool.
start points.
Absolutely.
So that's more expensive. And we've had a lot of debate back and forth on the design team. You know, what's better? You can upgrade a town to a city by just spending money after you have it on the map, and everyone's like, should I take a town card and then just upgrade it? Isn't that's giving me a city anyways? Why should I ever spend 2 in the city? But the way that the design team has balanced this out, if you put a city down, it gets a lot of free buildings around it, and you get some of the better buildings from the.
I would really like to see that indicated somewhere on this is like a city, like line here. The city will start with the following, like 6 free buildings. The town will start with however many free buildings. So I would like to see that notated somewhere, because that's kind of like hidden knowledge that the player has to have.
The previous age, the libraries and academies and things like that get pre-placed for you. If you put a town down, it has a lot fewer of those buildings, and so
A little bit more rural.
yeah. So if you know you want a city, I always find it's best to just put a city in right away.
I think when I played, I went with a city and a town.
Right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at this map and try to decide how many cities and towns we want first. So we can click the view
I do like that there's an autofill button for people who don't know what they should do.
map button and go back and look at it. And the really beautiful thing about this start is there is a second wide navigable river down here that we can settle next to.
Now, Ed, can I interrupt you for a second? I'd just like to
Absolutely.
point out that all these rivers on this map are all Shawnee names. And I think that, as somebody that works in the language department, is absolutely amazing. I love it.
That's really cool.
So this is the system that we first put in Civ 6 with the Gathering Storm expansion, where we started naming geographical features. We named volcanoes.
I do kind of miss having the name of the river written on the map. That was something kind of cool about Civ 6.
We even named storms after some citizens of the nation that the storm may have arisen in. But one of the really fun things was naming rivers, and it's set up so whichever player in the game, the same way that Civ 6 works, whichever player in the game discovers the river, that culture gets to apply one of their names to that river with a little bit of randomization.
Yeah, amazing.
And so that's, we love the fact that that's coming through here.
I
So
really
another
like
question
that
for
the
Chief
sort of
Barnes.
local
So
cultural
White and
names are
Gertie
part of the
TV
game.
would like to know, what's your favorite part of the new Shawnee Civ? Is it unique abilities? Is it unique units? Is it the tile improvements?
You know, I have to say it's probably the language and the music. Seeing that featured in the game,
Yep.
it's really, really impressive. The work, there was so much work that went into it. We have an archaeologist on staff at the Tribal Nation, and seeing what they were able to provide you guys so we get the models right, it's too much to just put one finger on.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm looking for most is the big land party whenever this rolls out that we're going to have back home.
Yeah. So we got another question for Robert Lay. Why was Serpent Mound chosen as the Shawnee's associated wonder?
Oh, that's because the age of the Serpent Mound and its geography, in the time period that the best archaeology suggests, puts it in a Fort Ancient context in the late 1200 AD, 1200 CE, 1300 CE, and given that it's on the Ohio River, that the most likely descendant community is is the Shawnee people that built that site.
That's actually my favorite part of what's in there is Serpent Mound.
Well, we'll get to see that in our save later on. So, Blondino Sauce would like to know, question for the Shawnee guys, did you have any input on the actual gameplay mechanics or the abilities of the Shawnee in-game?
Actually, yeah, I actually wrote up a list of possible abilities right off the bat and headed it over to the Firaxis guys, and they took a look at it, and we went back and forth several times and kind of worked out a few of the abilities. So
And I
That's
think
really
because
cool.
we're Civ players, it gave us that ability to understand what we were trying to do and what we thought we might be able to do.
absolutely, we were already speaking the same language with you guys, so to speak, as far as game mechanics, and I think it just helped us kind of gel and actually get involved pretty.
And we were comfortable right off
Yeah.
the bat. In that first Zoom call, you
Yeah.
know,
It was
you
so good.
obviously knew what Civilization was. You knew enough about Firaxis products to talk XCOM as well with us. So we were like, you know, we shouldn't be making the initial suggestions. Let's take it from
Yeah, and
you all. And
that meant a lot to me personally, so thank you guys. So.
no problem. It was great for us.
That's cool. All right, so Ed, where are we going to go from here?
So what we're going to do is, looking at this setup, we're going to try to decide how many towns and cities we think.
I think at
we,
least one
we're
city
gonna
and maybe
go
a town.
out of those 7 points that we get to spend. I absolutely want to put a city right down here
Yeah,
on the
that's where I would have put a
navigable
city,
river.
and then I would put a town up
And then
north.
in general, you always want to settle towns along rivers if possible for the fresh water
water.
that they have. It's a similar system to what we had in Civ 6, but now it's a happiness penalty that you take if you don't have fresh water. So I think to the west of Chillicothe along
I would put a
the
town
river we have up here is going to be a great place for another town. And then I think it's we're going to probably have to squeeze the last one in, but I think going
That's
with 2 towns would be a great way to go. So let's go back to our advanced start options, and we will choose to place a city.
But those
and
are pretty
then
much
2
the
towns.
decisions.
Click on it
Those are pretty much the
twice.
decisions I would have made.
And oh, I clicked on it 3 times. Okay.
It looks like
So
the
we
UI on
will,
this thing still needs a little bit of work.
Go ahead, and the other interesting thing that I wanted to point out about towns is sometimes you may get a little overzealous and choose too many towns you want, and you get it to placing them. You're trying to figure out what to do. Another option when you have this is you can say, no, actually, I want a settler right from the beginning. And if you click on an extra town and decide not to place it, you get a settler who can immediately move out on turn 1.
So you don't have to spend all your gold.
That's really
Yes,
cool.
So you don't have to spend all your gold on them. So that's an interesting way to do it as well.
That's a really cool idea that
So
you can get settlers
let me
instead
go
of the
ahead
town.
and we also have to decide what we're going to do with our last few points here. We can get gold. So yes, you could have bought a settler as well. You can gain some free technologies.
I like the capital upgrade idea. I also like the idea of getting free techs.
Some free civics. We're not going to really talk a lot about the rest of the Exploration Age gameplay today. So there are cases where maybe cartography could be really useful, and we'll tease that right now, but we're not going to explain why until the next live stream. But that is actually one of my...
One thing that I think could be incredible, okay, for Firaxis to do is like, and people were criticizing them for this, okay, is when you go to the Exploration Age, people were saying like, oh, they baked in colonialism. It's like, oh, you spawn on this continent with 5 other players, and then a new continent is created with two other players, and it's unpopulated, and so on and so forth. Bro, I had a brain explosion, okay? What if it wasn't just that, like, oh, sometimes that other continent, it's like empty, and it has, well, empty, right? There's always people there, and you just go colonize them, right? That's what colonialism is. What if they did the reverse? And sometimes when you go to the Exploration Age, you're the indigenous, and some other empire is trying to get you. All right, that would be such a genius move. It's like, I don't know if you ever guys played Crusader Kings 2, the Aztec, the Sunset Invasion, or what's it called, the Sunset Invasion, where sometimes you're like, oh, cool, right, Europe, we're getting ready to go colonize America, and then boom, it's like Aztec ships have been spotted off the coast of Ireland, and it's like, boom, the Aztecs start colonizing Europe, and start bashing heads. Like, it's so... I really hope, I think it would be such a cool idea if they did it. It would be so cool that sometimes, like, there's a 50-50 shot as to whether or not you're going to be, or maybe it's less baked in than that, but it'd be kind of cool.
My favorite choices. So let's go ahead and choose that we want to have an army. It's going to cost us 2 points if we want a full 4-unit cavalry army.
Damn.
Less expensive way to go might be to go to take an infantry army.
I would take the waltz.
Then give us some gold for a flexible
I think that's a good
way to go.
Gold is always a good option in Civ.
So I think what we're going to end up doing here is confirm these legacies. People might wonder what this custom is here, but what the Firaxis design team has done is set up some sort of presets, factory presets of configurations. If you want to get into a game very quickly, you can say, I want the economic set or whatever. But I always like to play with a custom set. It's a fun part of the game is to do this advanced setup.
This is a really cool mechanic. I'm very excited to see how that plays out.
Then the next thing we have to do is place our settlements. And we know we wanted to put our city down here next to the other navigable river.
I think that overlay is a little bit too high
lens, so
too
we
high
can see where the
saturation.
fresh water is with the green.
You ask for
But that
what
is-
reason I stay on the
And
mountain.
we actually got
I
lucky
smile,
enough to settle close enough
do
to a
not
natural
answer.
wonder that we have revealed that as well.
That's
Gwendolyn
really
did an
cool.
excellent job on the narration.
See, that's just across river from our new settlement. And now
Damn, that's an
we'll,
18
continue,
population city.
and
Holy
place some towns.
crapola.
And I think we're going to put the one to the west that I was talking about here on
I would
this other
definitely
river.
put it there
Right by the
myself.
Costco, the pigs.
And do that.
So 8
And
pop
then-
regular city. Okay.
We have another river site.
I wouldn't put it there
just
myself, but he
south
kind of.
of
I would
Chillicothe.
go northeast maybe. I mean, it's fine. It's just it's a little bit crowding of my
And
capital.
then
I feel.
we could squeeze one more town in here, or I could leave this as a settler that we can move out across
like
the
that.
I
map.
would have
like
gone
the
to get the
settlers.
So I'm
elephants
gonna
and
go
the
ahead and
dives
finish
and stuff in
placement
the
early
northeast.
and take the settler here. And it reminds me that I'll get it as a settler unit. And that's sort of the end of our advanced start process.
That's really
so
cool. I think
that
that's
was
an
sort of the initial
awesome
snippet
mechanic.
of gameplay. If you start a modern game, you go through a similar situation, but you're getting ready for the modern age at that point in time. We can see that our towns and cities have been pre-populated with buildings.
I really like the idea of the advanced start mechanic. So that, because it always felt weird if it's like, oh, let's start in the industrial age and you're placing down like your very first building. Whereas now you kind of start with a little bit of a baseline civilization, which is kind of neat and interesting.
From the prior ages, and we're ready to roll.
All right.
Awesome.
So are we going to roll into a later save then?
We can do that whenever we're ready.
Actually, I got a question before we go in. The General Z would like to know, for you, Chief Barnes, what was the most important thing for this game to get correct about Shawnee culture?
You know,
That's a big
the
one.
collaboration, I think, is the most important thing. Without those conversations, we couldn't have gotten the community buy-in. And so having a really honest dialogue and making sure that people were listening to what we had to say, that was the most important thing. And it's been, the relationship with Firaxis has been one that's been really enjoyable and really getting the job done in the way that is not just admirable, but I hope other video game publishers decide to follow that same direction.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Yeah,
So,
that means a lot to hear.
you
That's
did
really
a good
awesome.
job. Yeah. It was wonderful to be able to come out and show the game in progress at your annual meeting. It was really gratifying to see people's responses to it. You know, Carl, you were talking about people saying, I'm so excited about this game. I think one of the things that's so, you know, you want to do a good job, and really the validation comes from the people that you work with for that. So thank you so much for that. That was a really great opportunity.
Well, and it was great having you guys out. So
And you fed us all weekend long. Like, everybody kept putting food in our hands, and it was all good. It was.
one of the oldest Shawnee traditions: if you come to our house, we're not going to let you leave hungry.
The first night we were out there, and we had the ribbon cutting at the language center, and everybody's like, "Are you kind of out to dinner in the stomp dance? We have meat, gravy, and fry bread." And Andrew Johnson goes, "I like all four of them."
Andrew Frederickson.
Andrew Frederickson says, I like all four of those words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of Johnsons, Andrews and Johnsons, we're going to swap Andrew out in a moment. We're going to bring in art director Jason Johnson, who's going to talk on this next part. So Ed, how are we looking in our game right now?
We are going to switch to our game where we're going to jump about 60 turns ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to once again thank Sean Wilson from our QA department for setting up the saves for the live stream. And we will see how he has taken this fledgling Shawnee nation that we just set up before. He didn't put the cities in exactly the same place I did, but we used the
right.
same basic setup, and we'll see how it's progressed over those 60 turns.
All right.
I'm very interested to see how
we've got
this is
this great
different now.
Layer painting that Jason Johnson can talk about in just a second. That is your loading screen
Beautiful
when you go
painting.
into a game
Love the loading
playing as
screen.
the Shawnee with Tecumseh featured on the right-hand side of the screen. We can get a good look at the different abilities on this screen as well. A lot of the abilities of the Shawnee are based around the resources out there on the map and sort of their knowledge of the land and where commodities can be obtained and so forth. So the unique infantry unit, the
Kispako Nenato.
thank you, Carl, is gains combat strength. The more empire level resources, these are resources that help everyone in your nation that don't have to be assigned to a specific settlement. Those make that infantry stronger. We will also see when we get to the council fire
Yep. Mowaskoe Skote.
that those unique improvements that can be placed around the outskirts of the towns and cities, that those also gain power when they are next to resource.
That's really cool.
All right.
Plus 4 food is a
So
lot.
here we are.
Also, I'd like to just jump in real fast. I got a little anecdote. That Forbidden City right there, going to the Forbidden City in real life was on my bucket list for a very long time because it's long held been my favorite wonder in civilization. And I got to go a few years ago and actually see it in real life. And it was,
That's awesome.
that meant a lot to me just because of civilization.
We did not know that when we set up the save and happened to
I
put
know,
the
yeah,
Forbidden City
yeah.
right outside the Chillicothe capital.
Well, here we hear the soundtrack as well too.
Yeah.
So
I love this
Sam.
music so much, dude. I loved the great soundtrack in 6
Mound
too.
will sit in the upper. Yep,
yeah,
because
zoom in
the-
on Serpent Mound. Chad has been asking us to see Serpent Mound. So Carl, when you came out a few months ago, you had said as your personal victory condition was building Serpent Mound.
Yeah,
Is
yeah, I
that-
got to play about an hour of the game, and it accumulated in me building Serpent Mound, and I stood in victory. Yeah!
So joining us in the stream now is Jason Johnson, the art director for Civ 7. So JJ, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
So this looks really cool. Talk about how you guys came together to decide what the look of the Shawnee civilization was going to be.
It was just, as stated before, just this collaborative effort between the art department and our lead concept artist, Ryan Andrade, and the Shawnee. Every piece of art we did, we sent to them, and we had feedback sessions as if they were part of the design team here. And this unique improvement here, Carl, what was the name of it again?
The council fire?
Yes.
Now you asked me, and I. Skote is the fire part. There, thank you. Mowaskoe
Mawaskoe Skote.
Skote.
There you go. That was a big challenge for us. We really wanted to get that one right. We didn't have lots of information on what it would be, so we went back and forth, and we decided a longhouse would be really representative of a place where they could kind of meet in council, and then do this large fire platform around. It was incredible work with the Shawnee, being that they are
That is a really cool, unique
civilization
improvement.
fans. They know we've got to kind of pull and push sometimes with some of the architecture and buildings. But here's the Shawnee Bank, which I believe
That
one of
is
the first. Is that the
awesome.
bank?
That's
That's
the
the
palace.
palace.
Oh, that's the palace.
So we've got some slides that we'll jump to in a minute.
Dude, the building design is actually awesome. Look at that. That is gorgeous. Incredibly beautiful. Look at that granary. Like it fits so perfectly with the design. You can see that there's the ancient era walls, there's the medieval era wall, or the exploration era walls. The palace is beautiful. I just got a hair in my mouth from my own face. gorgeous. I love it. I love that each civ
So we
has
can
its own
walk
unique
through
set
some
of
these
buildings,
specific
like
buildings
designs and
talk
stuff.
a little bit about how you guys work together. But actually, let's go ahead. So, Carl, I think you got the clicker for that.
Yeah.
So we can jump to those slides. We can share that as well.
I will say I really appreciated our collaboration with how the buildings looked, and then when Chief made the call that it was okay for us to get a little bit more elaborate and less historical, I thought that was a great call, and I think it turned out great. The whole city tile set.
So we've got some specifics to go through with this. So let's go to the next one. So, what's this a painting of, JJ?
This is a painting of around the area of Chillicothe. I'm from Ohio. We call the area the Old Man's Cave, and there's a lot of gorges, and it's this really neat,
This is a
unique
gorgeous
place in
piece of
Ohio
artwork.
that most of Ohio doesn't.
I would love, listen, Civilization developers, get on display. Get on something. I want that I want this painting like on a poster on my wall, okay? Get on it.
like this, but
Or at the very least, give us permission to do it ourselves. I want this on my wall. It's gorgeous.
it was important to the Shawnee, and this is here is Tecumseh, in basically that area of the country in Ohio.
Cool. And this is an example of the kind of work your archaeology department was able to provide with us. What would the structures have looked like? And
That's amazing.
Tell us a little bit about what it is that we're looking
That's
at.
some, you know, this is very reminiscent of old Irish cranogues, which was built from natural materials. It gives me a very similar vibe.
Carl or Chief, either of you guys can take that. If you
Were
want.
these were, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, was it Sugarloaf buildings? Was that what they're kind of called?
Kind of a sugarloaf-shaped longhouse.
Yeah,
And wigwams.
Yeah, and we went back and forth with several of the decisions on how the houses would look in the wigwam, the wikiwa, what we call it.
And the archaeology department, our cultural preservation office, they were able to help inform, because in these fort ancient places where Shawnees lived for hundreds and hundreds of years prior to the arrival of Europeans, you can see the post holes, those marks still in the ground to this day when you use the right kind of equipment. So capturing that thematically with these post type construction methods, that was really important to us, and you guys did a great job, JJ.
And what's cool is if we jump to
Oh, look at that. That is a gorgeous building. You can't tell me that that's not gorgeous. It has the shape and identity of a university, right? Like, there's very clearly they have like shapes of buildings in the game. Like a building has a shape, and then you have like layered on top, right? Because Civilization 7 is all about layers. Layered on top is like the Shawnee architectural style. That's really cool. I do kind of wish that the university was blue. Science is always blue.
the university, JJ, you can talk about how you can take the language of the construction and extend it to there was no Shawnee University, but if there were one, it might look like this kind of thing.
Exactly, and one of the things I wanted to do with this one particularly is when we first started working with the Shawnee, we saw
One thing I really appreciate them including here is awnings. So this is actually something that building architecture has kind of lost. Awnings are an incredibly effective low tech, if anybody who watches Technology Connections, an incredibly effective low technology way to cool a building. So the fact that this building has awnings is sick, just for anyone who's like into architectural stuff. Because basically it prevents the sunshine from getting into the house, which lowers the amount of energy getting into the building.
this wonderful picture of their cultural center with this hearth outside and this amazing star pattern. So I kind of wanted to tie the two together and put that with the university. So
That's
it was
really
like
awesome.
This center of education and this kind of tie-in. And it's the only place we use the star pattern with any of the Shawnee buildings. We do use the hearth in other places too, but we wanted this kind of one-to-one that what's there now, and it kind of made sense that this would be what it could have been.
Yeah.
I love the
Yeah,
effort and detail
absolutely.
that they've gone into it.
And then
I
here we
think
have-
I think this kind of collaboration with cultural communities actually really elevates and builds up like a genuine work of art. Like these are incredible pieces of artwork that they've put together here. Beautiful.
We have a better picture of the Mewasco the council fire. And then again, here's the university and an example of our arbor out front.
Wow, I love how the university looks. It's amazing. Again, I wish it was blue. I know it's probably based on player color, but I wish it was blue.
And here's two pretty cool buildings.
Yeah, the one on the left here is the Shawnee Bank, and this was one of the first buildings we started working with them on.
It might have been the first one.
I think it may have been, and we were kind of deciding what are the things the Shawnee may have had to signify that they had a bank if they had a bank. So we have some corn and some other things, and then we have this wampum across the top. And one of our environment artists, she made this amazing wampum generator that we can she can put in any pattern and do sizes, scaling, and we just have this ability to put all kinds of wampum patterns on things. And
That is
so
really
cool.
awesome.
went back and forth on the color with you guys and make sure we got that nailed just right as well too.
I know color is probably based on what the people wanted, but like just from a gameplay communication standpoint, I would like it to be blue, or I would like this to be the color of what money is, right? Yellow in Civilization, purely just because that color is a communication tool in Civilization games. And while I do appreciate that this is like informed by the culture, from a silhouette, seeing the gameplay thing, I personally, from a gameplay point of view, I would prefer them to have the colors of the gameplay mechanic that they enhance. But I'm not going to cry about it.
And I really love because most of your banks, if I'm not mistaken, have a coin on the top. I love that we've replicated the circle pattern there on the top. That's really great. And I don't know what the building on the right is.
That's our market, I believe.
Okay. That
Yeah, it
makes
looks like a
sense.
market. Looks very
One of the
marketable.
other things when we were talking with the Shawnee and doing this building design was, in a lot of our buildings we have very manicured little garden grounds and statues, and I was talking to Carl and Chief Barnes, like, what would the Shawnee have done to kind of decorate their lands? And they basically said, make it as natural for the animals to come into the settlement more and live with them. So I wanted to make sure we had all the more natural kind of ground decorations in all the Shawnee buildings.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And it
awesome.
hits.
There's a lot of produce in that market too.
Yeah,
And a lot of really good Native American produce too. So there's pumpkins and there's squash and there's corn and there's,
Yeah.
Small little details like that
fantastic.
is just
All right, jump us
beautiful.
up one, because I think we're going to start to get into the concepting around Tecumseh.
Yeah, this is our very first iteration on the left there, the before that Mike Tassi had done when we started working with the Tecumseh concept. And we sent it out to Chief Barnes, and Carl and had a wonderful conversation. And after our meeting, Carl had sent us some wonderful historic images of Shawnee that we could then really kind of nail down and get the anatomy exactly correct and put back in to the final.
And I think this just turned
This
out.
is
awesome.
incredible
I just love
artwork,
this
by the way.
lot.
I love this. This is beautiful concept art. Again, sort of thing I would love to mount on my wall as a piece of art, like as a display or whatever. That'd be sick.
We've actually got those pictures as well too. So these are the ones.
Oh wow, that's really awesome. Because the getting the sort of cultural vibe of how people would look using historical photos, that's a really cool idea. It helps ground out the feeling of the cultural community.
Ones that you sent us of, these are
A few of them. I think there's about 50 pictures. But
I think
so
there was
here's a
50,
collection.
it's a subset of them.
And one thing I love about these, one of our biggest problems in Indian country in modern day is that we have a problem with invisibility. Just a lot of our issues aren't seen at a big enough scale. And I like these pictures because they represent us as a contemporary people, and you see that in the way they dress and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Here's more of the concept. This was another one of the very early concepts, and Mike Tassi did an awesome job on these. It's so good.
He was honored. He loved working on this one, and yeah, we had multiple face paints we were going with, and opted
Really
for
cool.
one we decided on just for readability in the eyes and all those kind of things. We went back and
Absolutely.
forth on.
I think
And,
that's it for our slides.
So we're going to pop up the website for the tribe as well too, so people can go and they can find out more from you, about you, by going to the website for the Shawnee
I think it would be
tribe.
sick
We have
to
links there to all our programs we work on and our language program, our language slip. It's called SLIP. It's our Shawnee
To
language
visit the
immersion
Shawnee
program.
tribe.
It is. You can find links there on the website.
And there's
Say hi,
information
learn
the
about them.
government
Yes.
And the governmental body and how we are as even our codes of laws are linked within our government.
Yeah.
really,
So
really
we got
cool.
a great question from Esteban Vidal, which is, what are some other ways one could get to know or experience the Shawnee culture if you're not a part of the tribe?
Great question.
So that's a very good question.
I'll take a first stab at that.
Yeah.
So Pete and Andrew came back from their weekend in Oklahoma and brought back a card game that Carl had designed. I played this with my family 2 nights ago. Learned enough about pronouncing some of the trickier consonants in the Shawnee language that I haven't totally stumbled, I hope, over
Yeah, no, you've done great.
Chillicothe.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's a form of Uno with a few special rules, and you need to pronounce each color and number as you're playing the card, which gets quite tricky after a while. But we had a great time with it.
Yeah, Ed, can you show
That's
that to
pretty
the camera
cool.
again?
Yes.
And it's called Ta Kewaki, which in Shawnee means not yet. Like, oh, I've got one more, not yet.
So that's what you yell when you're about to go out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you don't yell that, then
Somebody
you
else
take
can.
the
I love that.
four-card
I might actually see if I can
penalty,
buy
and so you wanna
that.
make
That's
sure
a
you
really,
remember
really cool idea.
Ta Kiwaki.
Yes, exactly.
I love the idea of having a card game, board game, whatever, that's actually produced and entrenched in the culture. That's really, really cool to me.
How else could people
We
experience
also have a cultural center located in Miami, Oklahoma that sits right off the interstate. And so folks that are traveling can stop by our cultural center and come and learn about us as a contemporary people.
I would
Right now
love to
we have an
visit that
exhibit
cultural center.
From
That would be
artist
sick.
Gibson Bird. He's a contemporary Shawnee artist, and most of them are landscapes and character studies. But they are some amazing paintings, and we welcome anybody to come by to the cultural center and learn more about us.
Great. So Shizuri asks, any recommended books to find out more about the Shawnee that you might recommend?
Absolutely. We have a wonderful human being we've been working with for quite a while named Stephen Warren. He's a professor out of Indiana?
Iowa. University of Iowa.
And he's written a couple books, Shawnees and Their Neighbors, and the world the Shawnee built. And those are both excellent resources to learn more about the Shawnee.
That'd be pretty
He's
cool.
the first historian that came to us and wanted to tell the story from our point of view.
I will probably order
And I'll
that
do the
book
shameless plug.
online after this.
Steve and I edited a book called Replanting Cultures, and that book, the whole book, is a case study on how to collaborate with tribal nations. It follows the philosophy of nothing about us without us. So for readers that want to find that book, look for the edited volume.
Nothing about us without us is a really, really, whoever coined that phrase, that's the kind of phrase a marketing person, like, if their competitor comes up with that, that's the kind of you lose sleep over. That's the kind of thing a marketing person would pat themselves on the back for forever. Nothing about us without us. Amazing. It has the same same energy as No Surrender. It has just that sort of amazing something about it. I can't explain it, but it has a really good nothing about us without us. Really, really great phrase.
On how to collaborate with tribal nations. It follows the philosophy of nothing about us without us. So for readers that want to find that book, look for the edited volume is by Dr. Stephen Warren and myself, and it's called Replanting Cultures.
Replanting Cultures.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So Ed, do you want to take us back into the game, and how would you potentially play us out here? Carl can't wait.
So, without telling
let's get to
a
the
lot
gameplay,
about
baby.
what
Let's
the
have a look.
legacy paths and objectives that we're going for in the age, I am going to talk at least a little bit about the military forces that have been assembled to defend our Shawnee nation. So we can see that military units, when they're stacked on top of cities, we only show the unit icon, and so you have to click on them and
I appreciate
get them to
that.
move out before you can see them. But we can see some of our
I like that when you
infantry.
click
This
on
is
them, they
the
appear.
unique Shawnee infantry. We also can see some really interesting work by our unit teams in reinterpreting standard civilization units for a specific culture.
That's
So I'm
awesome.
going to click on the knight here.
I
and
love
we're
the
gonna move
idea
on the knight
of
forward.
cultural
And we notice that it's
units
not,
having cultural
a
attire.
Typical European knight in shining armor. It is actually a representative of a really strong exploration age cavalry unit, Shawnee style.
That is
and it's
awesome.
fantastic
That
to
is
look at.
sick.
And we also have our ranged unit here and our army commander. And so let's debut the army commander for the Shawnee.
That's awesome.
And they will also be there to lead our forces. And so we can get a good sense of how, with
The Shawnee Knight is sick as
system
hell, dude.
that JJ's art team has assembled, they're able to take any of these units, assemble them from parts, and really dive in onto the cultural details.
Absolutely. And if you zoom in on them, you'll see different variations between their models, their
Bro, the pig was wallowing. Oh my god, I just caught that out of the corner of my eye.
animations, just to always keep it interesting when you're playing the game.
They look great.
And then you can see really the population buildings in the city built out as well too. Obviously, things like
love the
walls,
sprinkling
those have
of
a specific
cultural
gameplay
buildings
effect,
throughout
and
the
you want them
city
to be
is
represented
awesome.
in that. But you can also see our population buildings, our Shawnee-style population
This
buildings.
is the city hall, which is a smaller version of your central palace in your capital city. And we can see the university we've been talking about. That is underway. We're going to get that online very soon. In fact, if we advance one turn, we will be able to see that. So let's go ahead.
I have a question you might not be able to answer. What is the icon of Tecumseh's face to the left of the city name represent?
There's our university. The icon to the left
Of the city name?
Oh, okay. So when we look at our empire, we're going to have some settlements that are full cities.
okay,
They have
that
a
lets you
build
know that it's a
queue and
city.
you schedule the production like you normally do in a Civ game. And then in Civ 7, you have smaller settlements that are called towns that extract all the resources from the area. They can still have farms and mines and other improvements around them, but all of the output of those towns is fed to your cities, so that it's a way to. In Civ 6, it could get really overwhelming when you had 16 cities, and you're like, wow, I can't remember which one
Especially if
is
you leave your
producing
save for a few days.
what. Yeah, if you haven't come back to the save for a while. And so this is a great way to simplify that. So the easy way to tell a town from a city is just whether or not the leader's portrait is on the
Beautiful.
end of the city.
I like that.
So we have Ewolf 1850 is watching on Steam from Shawnee, Kansas. And he says, thank you guys for coming on the stream today.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you for reaching out.
We were just in Shawnee, Kansas just the other day. We was actually in Lenexa, next door to.
And there's actually a road not too far from our studio called Shawan Road, and we've been debating over the last couple of days whether or not that's a contraction or an anglicization of Shawnee.
Yeah, Shawnee. So,
I think the stream
All
skipped
right.
there because there was
So Ed, how would you take the Shawnee for
Connectivity
victory
issue.
in Exploration Age without tipping your hand too hard? What are you going to lean in on?
So they have a unique missionary, and their missionary ignores movement penalties from rivers, is able to get around. There are, just like in all the ages, there are 4 legacy paths that you're pursuing during exploration to try to push yourself forward in the game: military science, culture, and economic. The culture one is the one that's most closely tied to religion, but we do have a secondary path of those 4 that also benefits from strong religious gameplay.
Okay.
So I think, the missionaries representing spreading the Shawnee culture and language and everything else that we've been talking about in belief system across the map, that's absolutely a strong way to play the Shawnee. But I do think the other thing we want to tease is maybe the Shawnee's historical prowess wasn't as a naval power, but they certainly were based on rivers. With the rivers that we have here, these navigable rivers, that lets you get out to the sea.
Are we going to see some
And our
sick as hell
exploration age
Shawnee cogs?
has a lot of gameplay revolving around getting to the other half of the world, experience the other half of the world, seeing what the full set of cultures are within your Civ world. So
I wanna
if
see-
you do a great job of that and go out and explore the world. That's going to help you on 2 of those 4 legacy paths. And what I really am excited is that we have brought naval gameplay to a level that it's never been at in a Civilization game before.
Oh, man.
During some of these Exploration Age matches with the design team where we're going at each other in multiplayer,
I'm really interested to see how the
there have
naval
been
gameplay
some
plays out.
enormous naval battles, like 4 or 5 times the size of any naval battle I've ever seen in a Civilization game before.
Damn.
So the naval gameplay has taken off and gone to a new level,
That's
and
exciting.
that's really exciting to see.
yeah, that's super exciting.
All right. Well, I also want to remind people that I believe the Shawnee gameplay guide is up on the website now as well too, so you can go ahead and you can check that out for some more information about.
Sup, Kahi?
Yeah. Well, I want to thank Ed Beach for coming out and walking us through some of the gameplay today. I want to thank Jason Johnson for coming and talking about the art and building this relationship
Jason
with
nailed
Shawnee, but
the
I wanna
art
give
on
a
the
special
terrain and
thanks
buildings. Like,
to
fantastic
Carl
work
Meyer
from the team.
and Chief Benjamin Barnes.
And
from
also
Shawnee
the
Nation for being such
Tecumseh's
fantastic
art
partners
is
and coming to
amazing.
be with us on the stream
His,
today.
his model is
Yeah, wait,
sick.
Pete.
Oh,
Thank you.
we saw a mini map.
It's our pleasure.
We saw a mini map
With
for a
us on
split
this-
second. Ooh, a second sector of the world, perhaps, with different civilizations and islands between them. Things to speculate upon.
Stream today.
Yahweh, Pete. Yahweh.
Thank you.
No, it's
good to
our
be here.
pleasure.
This was really, really cool.
So we've got some dev diaries coming up as well too. Keep an eye out for them in the next couple of days. They will be live now, apparently. So that's awesome to hear. They'll be out for leaders and civs and how we go about putting those in the game. So see a little bit more about some of the process that we started today. If you're not already following us on social media, please do so. It's at Civilization or at CivGame in a variety of different places. Go to our website, civilization.com. And we're going to drop the thank you very much. We're going to remind everybody, if you get the opportunity, please do go to the Shawnee website, check it out, learn more about them, and we're honored to be able to work with them today. But for us here at Firaxis Games, my name is Pete Murray. I've been your host today. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Salanoki que no le poa.
Salanoke Kinopoa. I wasn't exactly sure what he said or how he said it. Dude, I actually think it would be sick to learn how to speak the Shawnee language. That would be insane. I gotta say, I appreciate the fact that they went over the setting up of an era. This was a really, really, really cool stream. Okay, sure, we didn't get a whole lot of gameplay, which is ultimately what matters the most to me as a player of the game. But there is something really cool about getting to pierce the veil, to get to see behind the scenes, to see Andrew Johnson, who is like probably the most passionate guy I've seen about history on the Civilization team. Just maybe, I don't know, he is their historian, talking with the actual chief of a Native American tribe that they get to put in the game. Like this is really, really cool stuff. It is a little bit more fluff, I guess, than substance, in the sense that not a lot of stuff about the actual game was revealed. So it is kind of, this was more of a behind the scenes kind of thing. But I do think it was actually a really useful and really good behind the scenes, because it touches off of a lot of really important points about representation of cultures. Nothing about us without us. It's a really good phrase. And the thing is, that's important because there are some cultures that they are not about anymore, so you cannot do anything about them with them. Oh shoot, do they have the Rosetta Stone there? Is that a replication of the Rosetta Stone? That is really cool. I gotta say, this is really cool. I really enjoyed learning about the the abilities of the Shawnee, B, how the advanced start works, and all the basic gameplay stuff that they went over in this video. Really, really exciting. It was also super interesting to see all the art stuff. I mean, it was super interesting because I'm interested in it, but not a whole lot of gameplay. Would be my feedback on this. But here's the thing: not every live stream has to be completely gameplay heavy. Sometimes it is worth it to take time out to talk about these parts of, in particular, America's unique situation with regards to the indigenous tribes of America. Super, super awesome. I'm really pumped to do gameplay analysis on this footage and see what shakes loose. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. I love you all very much. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. That's for your mom.